Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Veronica. Thank you so much for clicking the link to watch my video. Without further ado, let's get started with today's video. Okay you guys, so I'm going to be filming a Q&A video for you guys, and I'm going to be using my laptop over here, my MacBook. And I'm going to be going through all of your questions that you guys had. So on a few videos back, my last military video, I asked you guys to send me questions that you have that I have not answered, just because I feel like I don't know. It's not that I've ran out of stuff to film, but I want to answer your questions because I know some of you are going through that process right now or looking to get started. And so yeah, so I want to answer those questions for you guys. So one question that someone had about my hair are those twists that I usually do. I do those twists by myself. They're super easy, and it usually takes me about 4 hours to do my entire head because obviously I can't wear my hair in bulk. So yes, I am. That is a military approved hairstyle. So if you guys click through my videos and you see those long synthetic twists, that is an approved military hairstyle. The reason why it's not so full is because I can't have it so many inches in bulk per the Air Force. So yes, it does fit all in one bun, and yes, I've never really had any issues. There's only been one time where someone tried to question my hairstyle. We took a ruler out and my hairstyle was to the exact measurement. Bam. So I've never gotten in trouble for my hair, nails, makeup. Oh, I don't wear makeup, but I've never gotten in trouble for anything as far as my hair goes for the military. So yes, that is an approved hairstyle. Just be careful, make sure your colors, if you do want to dye your hair, make sure it's natural, so you can't do any blues or super reds or super blondes if it's not natural looking, you know what I mean? I keep getting this question a lot. A lot of people want to know, and I've had 4 of you asked this question, so I'm going to go ahead and combine it in one. So a lot of people want to know where I went to school. I actually vlogged all of that back in the day, or I filmed a video. It's called, actually I don't know what it's called. Don't watch it, it's probably so cringy. I graduated college at the age of 20. I went to Wichita State University. I have a late birthday. I'm born in September, so my parents started me in school early. So I always was about 6 or 7 months age-wise behind my classmates, but I went to Wichita State University. I graduated with a degree in healthcare administration. My formal degree title is Allied Health Services and Community Development. It's like a really long title, but essentially what it is it's healthcare administration management. I did not do ROTC. I get that question a lot. People are confused. I'm a direct commission, so because certain career fields in the Air Force kind of have like certain stipulations, so for medical you don't have to have ROTC to get in, and you don't always have to have ROTC to get in anyways. I refused to do ROTC in college, and I refused to go to a military college just because I figured if I'm going to join the military, I want to live as much of a normal life before I do that. Okay, so I'm going to read through these questions. Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm like replying to questions right now. I need to focus. Okay. So Mama Fitbit, I love your name, that's so funny, asked, were you working in healthcare administration as a civilian before you talked to the recruiter? The answer is kind of. So I worked, my first job ever in life was as a cashier on base, and my parents didn't allow me to have a job until I was in college, like my second year of college. So my parents didn't allow me to have a job because they told me my job was to be a student, so pretty much lived off my parents for quite some time. My first real job outside of that was at Via Christi Medical Care Center. It's a local hospital in Wichita. It's one of the #1 trauma hospitals there besides Wesley. But Via Christi is a little bit bigger. Anyways, you guys wouldn't care about that. So I worked as kind of like a data analysis. So I worked a lot with crunching numbers to figure out how much money and reimbursement we would get from Medicare, Medicaid, our insurances. I also worked as a patient administrator, so I knew how to register. I would go to the floors. I worked in the ER as well. Like I had 3 different jobs while I was there. 3 different positions. Like every 6 months I switched positions, and I was just like, yeah. So I wouldn't say per se I worked as like a full-on junior healthcare executive. I was like third down because they didn't really have, like, I was the youngest one in the office and my degree was healthcare administration, and they put me under a healthcare administrative bullet. So I pretty much did kind of what I'm doing in the military, where they stick you somewhere to work and they call it administrative. So I got administrative experience, but it wasn't like healthcare administrator. Usually when you get those titles, those are usually the more senior ranking folks, so you kind of got to work your way up to the top, if that makes sense. Did you hear about, this person also asked, did you hear about the MSc program in college, ROTC? And they said wait until you earned your degree. So no, I heard about this program in college, and just alluding to what I said earlier, I've never done ROTC. Never plan on it, won't be doing that. Especially because now I'm graduated, but no, I never did ROTC. I heard about this program because of Google. I honestly went onto the Air Force website, and before I graduated college, I want to say it was like my freshman year of college, because I got a recruiter really early, but he wouldn't do anything with me. I went through like 2 different recruiters because they PCS'd, but he wouldn't do any application or give me anything really until I graduated. I honestly Googled, I went to the airforce.com website and I looked at what my degree would transfer into. I never heard about it from anyone, but ironically my professor who wrote me a raving review reference to get in was a retired lieutenant colonel. And he taught me at Wichita State University. He actually taught most of the healthcare senior master's classes at WSU, and he was awesome. So he was a retired MSc, and he's like, I feel like you'd be so good at this job. And ironically, like, that's what I was working towards. So he was awesome. What are the physical requirements for COT? So it's going to be the same as the Air Force. So you're going to have to do a 1.5 mile run for girls, 14 minutes or less. For guys, I think it's like 12 or 11 minutes. It's quick. And then for the push-ups and sit-ups, you gotta just look at the Air Force chart to see what your height, your age, and your weight is, to kind of go through all of that and see the points that you'll get. So pretty much if you search like Air Force physical fitness standards, that's what you need to be doing at COT. They will send you home at COT if you're not physically fit. Our particular commandant, which is basically the colonel who's in charge of our entire program, he was like really hardcore, and he sent like 25 people home in my class because they couldn't pass the physical fitness standard. So I say all that to say, pass your physical fitness stuff. So you don't have to be like perfect at it, but you need to be close. You know what I mean? Do they expect more of you because you're in healthcare? And then have you started your master's degree? So I wouldn't say they expect more of you because you're in healthcare. I think they expect more of you because you're an officer, period, versus enlisted. I definitely can tell. I personally feel, and this is just Veronica's opinion, I feel that enlisted get away with a lot more than officers do. Like when an officer does something not good or is so-so, it's like the kiss of death. But when an enlisted member does it, it's kind of like, oh, like a baby or something. It's really strange. And then have I started my master's degree? No, not yet. I'm trying to study for a certain program, and if I get into that one, then I'll do that. If not, then I'm going to go into an online MBA program, just because it's so competitive to get what I'm trying to do. And I'm okay with whether I get it or whether I don't get it, as long as I get my master's. I told myself I would have my master's degree by now, but of course I waited because I was like, okay, well, let me see if I get into this program. But either way, the Air Force is going to pay for my degree, so I'm not really stressing about it anymore. Okay, so someone said, hey Veronica, I have an associate's in arts degree right now and I'm thinking about joining the Air Force as an officer for air traffic management. Can I somehow negotiate with the recruiter about getting accepted with OTS with this degree? Okay, so here's the thing. Whenever you're looking at career fields, look, there should be, and I don't know if it's on the airforce.com website, but there should be like a formal instruction for that degree, and your recruiter should have access to get you this instruction. and essentially it's going to tell you what degrees qualifies for this career field. For instance, for MSCs, if you have a bachelor's degree in economics, if you have a bachelor's degree in business, if you have a bachelor's degree in healthcare administration, those all qualify to be an MSc. If you have another degree that's not any of those, then that's fine, but you have to have taken, and then they list like 5 courses that you have to have within your degree. Like you have to have a lot of business, a lot of math classes, a lot of economics, for example. So for your air traffic management, I'm not familiar with that one at all, but talk with your recruiter and see if you can get like a document, and it's kind of basically like the requirements to apply. And pretty much everything has a waiver, but if they tell you they only take these 5 degrees, then they're only going to take those 5 degrees. But this goes for everyone in general. If you don't necessarily have the exact title degree like mine, healthcare administration, then just look to see what your courses actually are, and then you can apply. And then if you don't have them, you might have to take them before you can apply. Hopefully that makes sense, but that's really awesome that you want to do air traffic management. That's so cool. Okay, so someone asked me, this is Brian. My son isn't sure if he should go Air Force ROTC or enlist and take college courses. Can you explain the difference? Also, can you elaborate on the medical jobs in the Air Force? I haven't seen any videos on the best medical jobs and why. Yeah, so first question, can I explain the difference between ROTC and enlisting and taking college courses? So ROTC is generally your ticket to get in as an officer. So you're going to be a manager, a leader, you're going to be over things. Enlisted, you're kind of like, even if you have a degree, depending on what you have a degree on, you're usually going to start come in as a staff sergeant, and that would be like you have 2 years of college already under your belt. If you have nothing, then you're going to start out probably as an airman basic or a senior airman, just depending on how you test in your courses or whatever. So that varies. It just depends on what you want to do. Do you want to be in the military right away and take your and get the Air Force to pay for your college guaranteed, or do you want to go through ROTC and go through college and then go in as an officer? It's honestly just a personal preference. I don't think either way is bad. It's just what works for you. For me, I will tell you my example. My dad told me, because I felt the same way, going into high school, I was like, or graduating high school, I had senioritis, and then I realized, okay, I really want to cheer, but what else should I do? And I actually talked with a military recruiter, and they actually had the recruiters show up to the high school, so I'm sure they still do that because they always want people to enlist. But my dad and mom were both prior enlisted Air Force people. My dad was one of the top, obviously made chief, which is the top rank as an enlisted person. And he said, my daughter is not enlisting. You will not. You will go to college. You will graduate college. And then if you want to enlist or go as an officer, that's what you will do. But you will... He was basically told me I couldn't enlist either. I had to go officer. So I really didn't have a choice, and I'm so glad I listened to my dad and I wasn't stubborn, because I do that sometimes, or I'm like, I'm not listening to you. But I listened, and I'm thankful for it, because I don't think I would have fit well for my personality as an enlisted member. I think they're hardworking, which is something that I feel like I identify with. Is I'm a very hardworking person, and I will get my hands dirty. I don't care about titles, but I also feel like I'm called to be a leader, and I'm called to be a manager, and I'm good at it, and I like it, and I like being POCs for stuff. You can still do that, but it's just in a different way. So that's a personal decision. I recommend you talk it over with your son and kind of make a pros and cons chart and just figure out what is your overall goal for the military. And just remember, when you enlist, you don't get to just enlist and take courses right away. You have to wait, I think, like a year or two before you're eligible to do that. I believe it's just 1 year when you're doing your GI Bill or your I can't think of the other bill name. Elaborating on medical jobs. So we have our doctors, our physicians, our nurse practitioners, our physician assistants. We have public health, which is public health officers, public health techs. We have our aerospace physiologist doctor, which is a physiologist aerospace doctor. I'm sorry, I don't know what exactly that they do. That's different, but yeah. so just forgive me on that. We have social workers, so obviously, and it's not like on the outside. I think when people think social work, they automatically go to like pulling kids out of homes. No, like this is family helping. This is helping with situations. The drug rehab program that we have on every base is required to have. They run that. I mean, there's so much more. We have psychologists. We have mental health technicians, which are enlisted. So anytime I say technicians, they're enlisted. The medical group has the most officers in one place because you're going to have a lot of officers in those higher level positions. We have nurses. Nurses are considered officers. They're not techs, so you do have to have your BSN to be a nurse, but yes, that's what we have. We also have like a head doctor. We have a head administrator. We have a commander. We have, I'm trying to think of everyone's positions. We have bioenvironmental engineers. We call them bios or the Bs. I'm trying to think. We have resource management officers. We have medical logistics officers, which is what MSCs all are. We have group practice manager. We have an IT guy, IT MSC essentially, but he's a civilian. We have data analysts. We have dental. I'm trying to think. We pretty much have everything that a clinic has, just small. It can be small or big. There are only, I think, 2 hospitals left in the entire Air Force, 2 or 3. The rest of the hospitals are considered clinics. We all used to be hospitals at one point, and then they changed them onto clinics where it's like focused, small, everyday care. And then you have larger bases with either large clinics that have specialties, or you have an actual hospital, like there's one in Wilford Hall, which is where San Antonio is. So if you're located down there, you know what I'm talking about. And essentially, we have women's health, we have immunizations, we have family health, which is a section that sees like all the active duty, and then you have the flyers, and then you have just your certain specialties of medicine. We have optometry, so we have an ophthalmologist, and we have what's called like a, you know, where you have like your insurance section where if you need a referral or an issue. We have TRICARE area, TOPA, which is TRICARE, operations and patient administration. Don't quote me on that, okay? We have a ton of stuff. So for me, I think one of the best jobs, I don't know, I feel like we all do so much. I feel like I'm a little biased because I really do like being an MSC because I'm in healthcare, but I don't have to study the healthcare. So I like that. But I feel like too, I'm not going to pick my career field because I don't want to be biased, but if I had to pick another career field, I really like how people can help people, and I would love to like help someone, but I just don't want to help someone in that way, which is why I became a healthcare administrator. But I think being either like a nurse practitioner or a physician assistant would be really cool because you get to help people. It's not as long as being a full MD, but it's just as good, and we value them equally. So I think that would be a really cool job to have. Okay, so this person said, I'm interested in joining ROTC for the remainder of my 2 years in college for the GI Bill for dental school, but I know nothing about the military. Can a biomedical degree get a job like yours? Again, so just refer back to my question that I stated earlier. If you wanted to get a position like mine, you just essentially need to have a lot of business, statistics, like calc and economics classes, which is all entangled already within my degree from Wichita State. So you need to have some of those courses if you don't exactly have my degree. But also biomedical, we have a lot of BSCs, which is like the Biomedical Service Corps, and they do all types of different things. So depending on what your actual focus is, there might be something other than my actual degree or my actual job like mine that you may want to try out. But yes, you can always try for my job. Just remember to look at those courses. Okay, so this person asked, do you have any tips for a second lieutenant coming from ROTC? Any tips on being confident in control of so many people as a Black female person in general? So I do have some tips. I would say no. Be confident in when you speak, and it's okay to say, I don't know. Really rely on your senior NCO. So wherever you're placed at, you should have a senior NCO that you kind of link up with, or they're essentially your flight chief. If you're not a flight commander, there still should be a senior NCO that you can rely heavily upon. Or you can rely heavily upon someone who's enlisted, who knows a lot about the job that you're actually going to do. And I really took a lot of notes from my senior NCO. She's awesome, and luckily we were two strong females. We hated like confrontation, but I felt like as a leader too, I couldn't shy away from stuff. I had to take control of the situation. Unfortunately, I am going to be honest, because I always am honest, and I'm going to have to keep it together because it kind of makes me a little emotional. But yes, I've experienced some uncomfortable situations where if I were not a Black female, I don't think I would be in those situations, or I would have experienced them. So it's almost like I feel like I do have tough skin, but I try not to show my emotions at work. I try to keep myself in check. If I have emotions, they're behind a closed door by myself, or they're with Lewis in the car, or they're at my house. And I've definitely had some days where I honestly cried because I was just so done with it. But I persevered, and here I am almost 2 years later. I'm coming up on my 2-year anniversary, you guys. Can you believe it? But I think as a second lieutenant, don't come in trying to change everything. Observe, note that there might be some improvements that you feel like could take place, but ask the people in your flight or the people who you're working above, like, do they have any input? Don't try to come in too strong, because when you come in super strong, they will resent you. I feel like the difference though is sometimes people or situations require that strength, so you have to know, and it's a fine balancing act. You have to know when you have to be that firm, strong person, and when you can like let go, let loose, and let people continue to make their own mistakes and not correct them, but kind of help them through it, if that makes sense. So my tips definitely essentially are, don't come in knowing everything, ask a lot of questions, have a great attitude. There are so many officers that you can tell the good ones from the bad ones, or at least from the first impressions. People who come in and they're like, hi, my name is Veronica, I'm a second lieutenant, like they're engaged, or people who are like, yeah, I'm Veronica, I don't really need your help, I know everything. Like, you can tell there's those two different types of people. Don't be that person. So just soak up as a sponge, enjoy your time as a second lieutenant, have a lot of fun, and get involved with whatever you want to get involved with. I think as a Black female officer too, sometimes people are going to label you, and it's gonna hurt. It is. It's gonna hurt, and it's gonna suck. And you're gonna ask yourself why. You may end up crying at home like I did, but it does get better, and there's not always gonna be those types of people around. You might always have one, but it's not always gonna be your experience. And I always say this, I would never base, and I'm not gonna talk about any negative stuff when it comes to anything that went on at the med group, just because out of privacy, and I don't want to put all of our business out there on the internet. But what I do want to say is, don't base everything off your first assignment. So if you have not the best experience at your first assignment, and you base it off the military is going to be everything like my first assignment, you're probably going to regret it. I try to say, you know, it could always be worse, and I made it through the situation, and look how strong I am. And I've gotten so much feedback on it. how consistent I was and how people couldn't even tell that I've never had military experience. It seemed like I was prior enlisted, and that's a huge compliment for me. So just take it slow, ask questions, rely on your senior NCOs, and just, you got this. Be strong. You got it. And it's okay when you're not, and reach out to me. If you see me in the global, email me and I can definitely help you out. Okay, so did those in your unit respect you? Yeah, for the most part. Obviously, as being, I'm just gonna be honest here, being a second lieutenant, female, black officer, didn't get the warmest welcome from some certain people, but I think they came around. Unfortunately, it's a part of, I feel like, some people's culture where they feel like they need to not haze you, but give you a hard time, especially as like a butter bar. I don't think it's necessary. I feel like everyone starts somewhere, and I don't really like people who do that, but I get it. Sometimes it's kind of like, you know, when you're on a cheer team and you get a new person and everyone knows each other and we've all been there, and here you are, like, and you're a new captain. It's kind of like, I think not. So it's kind of like that situation, but it didn't last long at all. You know, it's just one of those things where you first come in and people are trying to fill you out, and they're either trying to butter you up because they want something, or they're like not getting with the program. So be prepared for that. Did you wear blues or ABUs on your first day? ABUs, you don't wear blues unless you're in trouble or it's a blues day. So a blues day is like morale, like, hey, every first Thursday of the month we're gonna wear blues. We used to do that because the superintendent that we previously had loved blues, so she like pushed for us to wear blues, but it's not really feasible in Montana during the winter because there was times where it was literally it was snowing so bad, and there's no like jacket for blues besides like your blues coat, semi-formal coat, and then there's like a trench coat you can buy, but it's still not warm. So I really personally did not like that because I felt like it was too cold, but I feel like everyone looks so clean in their blues. Like, you just carry yourself a little better. So now we don't wear blues anymore. She's since retired, so we haven't really worn blues since. I'm gonna be honest. So, have you ever missed saluting someone of a higher rank? No, but sometimes, okay, so there's like the Airman Battle Uniform, so ABUs, and then there's like the OCPs, which I can't remember what that word the acronym stands for. See, too many acronyms. I should know this, but I can't remember off the top of my head. But there's like a different camouflage set, and sometimes those it's like a browner uniform. It's similar to the Army's, but not the same pattern. Their ranks are in the middle of their chest and not on their collar, so sometimes I'll have to literally get up to people before I can salute them, like, oh, hey sir, how's it going? Or hey ma'am, how's it going? But no, I've never really had that issue. I've had people not salute me, and I think they did it on purpose, and you'll see people like run away from you to not salute, but we all have to salute someone. It's really not that big of a deal to go, hey sir, how's it going? Hey sir, how's it going? Hey ma'am, how's it going? How's it going? What's up? So I just think people just need to come off of that. Just don't run away, okay? Be confident in yourself. Walk towards the salute. How often do you receive an evaluation? So I think you're talking about what's called feedbacks. So we receive those annually, and sometimes rater-directed feedbacks, which means your supervisor wants to give you a feedback for whatever reason. But usually we give feedback a lot if there's something that we could do better, or something or you're doing really good at, but it's verbal. The only time it's really documented is your one feedback a year, and then you'll have what's called like your officer performance record, where it's kind of like a list of all the best things you did that year. What has been the hardest thing so far? I think the hardest thing for me so far is kind of like a combination of things. So I think for me, living so far away, which is fine, but I feel like I'm in a spot where I'm not only far away, but I feel like I'm far away from actual civilization. And I know I'm probably exaggerating because it's not like we have like a one Walmart place, you know, but it's just hard because growing up where I have access to so much and now I have nothing. So that's hard. And sometimes for me is like, I feel like the military does not help my perfectionism. So sometimes, and I know it's me because I'm very critical of myself, but I feel like I have to be like this awesome person. And it's not that I try so hard, but I expect so much out of myself and I really tear myself up. But I feel like sometimes the military promotes that culture. It's good because I feel like it's a challenge, and for my type of personality, I like stuff like that. But I also feel like sometimes it doesn't really help, and so it's hard for me to like go home on time and not think about work or not work long hours. And it's just hard because I feel like I have to do such a good job at, you know, no matter what the cost. But then I was so miserable doing that. Like, you guys could tell in my videos probably all last year, not all last year, but towards the end of last year for sure, I was just stressed. And kind of the beginning of this year, I was just like, no, I can't act like this. So it's hard. It's hard to work in an environment like that. And I think for officers, especially once you perform well, they expect you to do that and they want you to keep doing that. And it's kind of like, ugh, you know. And so I performed well and my expectations were raised, and it's not that I can't meet them, but because I'm a natural pleaser, it doesn't bring out the best part of me, if that makes sense. And that's hard for me to admit, it's hard for me to accept, but I just can't live my life like that. And so I think it's hard for me to turn it off. But I'm so thankful that I have a man who, once he gets here, he's gonna help me balance that out. Like, Lewis knows how to bring the best parts of me out, and he knows how to speak to me in a way where it makes me want to do better or want to feel better. And he's going to really help me with that, because he was telling me, like, now he could tell, he knows when I'm stressed when I'm not even saying it. And it's not that I'm taking it out on him, but he's like, you just sound different. And that's someone who really knows me. So I'm excited for him to move in with me to kind of help me manage that. But that's something that I promised myself, is I'm not going to put work always before my life. I just can't do that, especially, and I want to learn it now. Because I'm going to have a husband who's going to need me. I'm going to have kids in the future. And I don't want to be that mom, and I don't want to be that parent. And I understand we all have to make sacrifices, but my family is non-sacrificing. Like, that's not something that I'm going to sacrifice for a job. And so, I love the military, and so far so good. I definitely want to stay in. I don't like it when people ask me, do I think I'm going to work 20 years? I think it's just a natural question people ask. I have to take it assignment by assignment and year by year. And now that I'm married, Lewis and I made a promise to each other, and we're going to film a couples video for you guys, but we made a promise to each other, and he's going to have a very demanding career as well. And we're going to talk about it every time, especially for mine, because mine's a contract. And I'm not going to put myself in a position where it's not conducive for my family. But at the same time, I don't want to sacrifice who I am just to please another person. I have to be bought into that. I'm going off on a tangent, but essentially I feel like the hardest thing for me, to answer your question in a nutshell, is just managing expectations with a high functioning personality already. And yeah, just dealing with some of that stuff that I keep dealing with. It just, anyways, I don't even know. So hopefully I answered that question. But I don't want to ever come on here and tell you guys like all positive stuff and there's no negative stuff. Like, I want to share my life as I go through negative stuff, because I want you guys, this is real life. Like, life isn't like positive, positive, positive. I only want to put the positive things on YouTube. Yeah, generally I only want to put the positive things on YouTube. I'm not going to post every time I'm in a fight with someone, or Lewis and I are arguing, or every time I'm having a bad day at work. And I want to be careful about that, because I might feel emotional and feel strong, and then the next 2 weeks go by and I feel really good and I'm back to where I need to be. But I want to share what I've been struggling with, what I've been going through that's real, so you don't come into the military and you think it's all going to be roses. Like, that's not realistic. And I think some people are like that, where they're like, I'm going to work 7 to 4:30. I'm going to leave every day at 4:30. No, I come in or 7:30 to 4:30. I come in sometimes and I'm working 7. I'll come in around 7:40 and I'll stay till like 6:30 or 7 o'clock every night. And it's not, I'm not bragging about that. I personally don't think it's a good thing, but sometimes there's just so much work that you just have to get it done, and there's no other way to get it done. Okay, so I had 2 people ask me about this, or 1 person. When do you find out about your job during the process? Before OTS, during, or after? And then do you sign a contract with a specific job? So let's start out with, when do you find out about your job? I personally found out I was in MSC, but I didn't find out about my job until I got to my base. Some people are reached out to while they're at COT, and they're like, hey, when you get here, you're going to be in RMO. Like, not everyone knows their job. So I went to COT not knowing what my job was, and I got there, and my boss never really formally said it, and then I was like, hey, sir, so what am I going to be doing? And then he's like, oh, yeah, you're the Logistics and Readiness Flight Commander, so you're going to be dual-hatted. And I was like, whatever that means, and then I found out that means it's going to be a lot of work. So some people found out before because their commander or whoever their sponsor or supervisor was reached out to them and told them this is going to be your job. There's just no magical formula, but I would tell you, just in general, don't expect to find out about anything until you get to your base, because even if they tell you a job, there might be a small chance that you get there and they're like, hey, you're actually going to be doing this, not that. So do you sign a contract with this specific job? So yes. Essentially, I signed a contract to be a Medical Service Corps officer. My contract, my initial one, is 3 years, and every time it's going to be 3 years unless I do something like get into a fellowship program or a school program, and then I might owe more years of service. But I'm at my every time I re-up, it's just a standard 3 years. Some people have 2, some people have 1 year. I know you can switch to 2 or 1. I think for my career field, it's a standard 3. So essentially, I would stay in, if I decided to separate right now, I would stay in until I'm a first lieutenant, essentially. So I would have 1 more year. So I would leave in 2019. And I would separate. But I'm going to be leaving in 2019 anyways, because I'm going to be PCSing, so I'm very excited about that. But other than that, that's pretty much everyone signs a contract, and it's called, like, I know for enlisted, it's called a re-enlisted for officers. I'm not sure if there's really another term. I honestly just think it's an enlistment, but it's for officers, so. And let me just say this, and this is going to be my last comment because I know this question is really long, or this video is already really long. It does not matter whether you do 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, 20 years, 6 months. There is no 6 months, but you get the point. It does not matter how much service you do. It does not make you any more harder than anyone. It does not make you any more better than anyone. It's simply what you feel like you want to do for your country. And any service that you do for the country is good enough. So if someone gives you grief about separating, and just doing 3 or 4 years, tell them to mind their own business, or respectfully smile like this. Well, thanks for your opinion. And just march on and know that after your 3 or 4 years are done, you've did what you feel like you could do for the country, and that's it. There's always going to be more people to enlist. There's always going to be more officers. So don't feel like you have to be stuck doing what everyone else wants. Do what you want to do. And if you're married, if you have kids, I always will recommend to do what's best for your family. And it definitely is a huge family discussion. So I probably took up a lot. This is probably going to be a long Q&A video. Thank you guys so much for your questions. I will keep filming more military or Q&A videos. Just leave all your comments down below. That way it's easier for me to track them. And if you want to see more videos like this, then just leave more comments down below and I'll keep filming them. But thank you guys so much for watching. I really enjoyed filming this type of video. Thank you guys so much, and I love you guys, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye!